Down now or one by one you'll all be gone. The voice cracked like thunder through the train car, sharp, unrelenting. Screams followed. Coffee cups exploded on the floor. Briefcases flew. A stroller tipped sideways. Dozens of passengers on the Red Line Express dropped between seats, hands over heads, faces twisted in panic. All except one. Seat 60. A woman in a gray blazer, pale blonde hair tucked neatly behind one ear. Calm blue eyes fixed on nothing in particular. She didn't flinch. Her blazer was tailored but practical, fitting an athletic frame like it was made for motion. One leg crossed over the other, a paper cup still sealed in her hand. If you didn't know better, you'd think she was just waiting for the next stop. Her name was Cassandra Drake, but no one on that train knew it. Not yet. At 39, she carried a presence that didn't need volume, the kind of beauty that turned heads but froze words. Her movements were deliberate, her stillness even more so. 3 men in black tactical gear had boarded the Red Line just after it pulled out of Jefferson Station, less than 30 seconds ago. They were armed, the real kind. No bluffs, no noise for show. Their entry was clean, coordinated, rehearsed. This wasn't a robbery. It was an operation. The lead one, tall, lean, unreadable behind the slits of a ski mask, swept the cabin with his weapon like a shepherd scanning livestock. I said, "Get down," he barked again, more rage, less patience. Everyone obeyed. Everyone but her. His eyes locked on the only figure still upright. A businessman pressed his cheek to the filthy vinyl floor. A mother sobbed into her toddler's shoulder. A college student trembled behind a backpack. But Cassandra Drake stayed seated, elbow on the armrest, fingers resting lightly on her purse, not a tremor in her hand. "You deaf lady," the man snapped, stepping closer. The barrel of his rifle hovered at her chest. Cass tilted her head slightly, like she was inspecting a misfiring piece of machinery. When she spoke, her voice was soft, honeyed Southern by birth, steel by training. "I heard you just fine, sweetheart." He froze. It was the first time anyone had spoken back since they boarded. The other 2 men flanked her, exchanging wary glances. "You think this is a joke?" the leader growled, the muzzle creeping closer, centimeters from her collarbone. Cass offered the faintest smile. "Oh, I'm sure you would. The question is whether you'll get the chance." On the floor, people were praying, crying, too terrified to move. But now they were listening. Who was she? Was she reckless, delusional? Why wasn't she afraid? Here's what they didn't know. Cassandra Drake wasn't just another commuter. She was there on assignment. 3 days ago, she'd been briefed on chatter surrounding a possible threat to capital city's transit network. No backup, no extraction, no certainty. She volunteered anyway. Her blue eyes changed. What was once calm became glacial, calculated, lethal. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "3 things you should know." The man blinked, startled. "First, you're standing too close." He tensed. Second, she glanced at his weapon, then back at his masked face. "Your safety is still on." He looked down, confused. "Third," Cass's smile vanished. "You just made this personal." What followed took less than 3 seconds. Cass's right hand shot up, clamping his wrist. A twist, precise, brutal. A sickening crack echoed through the car. The man screamed, his weapon falling uselessly to the floor. At the same moment, Cass drove her knee upward, straight to his core. Air whooshed from his lungs in a broken wheeze. He folded like paper. Cass stood, fluid, upright, commanding, nearly 6 feet, in her modest heels. A predator uncaged. At the front of the car, the second assailant spun around, weapon raised. Too late. Cass grabbed the wounded one by the vest, yanked him upright, and spun him into the incoming fire. Gunshots cracked. Screams returned. Passengers ducked lower. The air filled with gunpowder and pulse-pounding tension. "Stop shooting, you idiot," the injured man gasped. "You'll hit." Cass used his body as a springboard, launching forward in a physics-defying twist. She spun midair, driving her heel into the second attacker's throat. Precise. Final. He slammed into the subway door, his weapon skidding across the floor. The third man froze, realization dawning too late. This wasn't luck. This wasn't chaos. This woman was trained, and she wasn't done. "Who the hell are you?" he shouted, voice cracking, his finger hovering over the trigger. Cass didn't answer. She straightened her blazer, brushed a strand of blonde hair from her face, and spoke to the people on the floor. "Stay down," she said, calm and control. This will be over soon. The last attacker backed toward the emergency brake, his weapon jerking erratically between Cass and the frightened passengers. His mask was soaked, his hands trembling. I swear I'll do it, he screamed. I'll take them all with me. Cass exhaled, slow, deliberate, the sound more chilling than any threat. She reached into her purse. Don't move, he shouted. Lady, don't you? Relax, Cass said, drawing something black and sleek from her bag. I'm just getting my phone. But it wasn't a phone. Not really. The device was matte black, military issue, no logo, no screen. Cass raised it to her lips, and her voice snapped into command like a rifle bolt. Bravo 7 to command. Threat contained. 3 hostiles disarmed. Car 6 Redline Express. Requesting cleanup team. Immediate. The third man's face turned ghostly. What? He stammered. Who are you calling? Who even are you? Before Cass could answer, a voice crackled, loud and clear for all to hear. Copy that, Bravo 7. Ground team en route. 2-minute ETA. Good work, Commander. The word echoed through the train car. Commander. The last man took a step back, hands trembling, the barrel of his weapon dipping. You're military? He stammered. Cass's smile returned, but this time it carried no warmth. I was retired last year, she said quietly. 10 years with Recon Division. 2 more advising units you've never heard of. She glanced around the wreckage, coffee pooled across the floor, people staring from behind shattered comm, like she'd stepped off a film they didn't know was real. Thought I'd try civilian life, she added. So far, kind of overrated. The passengers who'd seen her as just another commuter were now looking at something else entirely. Not just a survivor, a weapon. The injured man she disarmed earlier tried to crawl, one arm hanging uselessly. This is impossible, he wheezed. Our intel said this train was all civilians. Soft. Cass didn't argue. She walked toward him, calm, steady. Your intel was correct, she said. I'm just not a civilian today. Her voice hardened. 3 days ago, someone leaked chatter about a planned disruption targeting capital city's rail system. Unfortunate for you. The Homeland Rapid Threat Division has excellent ears. She paused, glanced at her nails, perfect, controlled. They needed volunteers, people with specific skill sets. Most of my old team passed, so they were done with the field. She took one more step, eyes locked on the last standing man, cornered near the emergency exit. And you, he croaked. Why didn't you say no? Cass's posture shifted barely, but the whole train felt it. She looked straight through him. Because last month, she said softly, someone linked to your network planted an explosive in an elementary school at Harbor Junction. 49 children hospitalized, 6 in critical condition. Her voice dropped so low it scraped. One of them is my niece, Hannah. She's 8. She still wakes up screaming. The train fell silent. Even the sobbing stopped. It wasn't just tension now. It was something heavier. Grief turned into a blade. So when they asked for volunteers, Cass continued, I didn't sign up. I begged them to let me. The last man's weapon wavered, not from calculation, but fear. Look, listen, he said, pressing back into the emergency panel. I've got names, account logs. We can make a deal. Cass shook her head, slow and certain. That's the problem. We already have the names, the burner phones, the fake accounts, the safe houses. We've been watching for 4 months. The color drained from his face. Then why didn't you stop us? Cass smiled, but it cut like a scalpel. Because, she said as the train began to slow, sometimes it's better to let the wolves walk straight into the trap. Through the windows, lights flashed, tactical vehicles, federal teams, snipers on the roof. No escape. Red and blue lights pulsed, a deadly disco of justice waiting outside the next station. Cass took a step toward the trembling man. Your backup isn't coming. Your comms were jammed the second you stepped on board. Your hideout's burned. Your network's already collapsing. His resolve cracked. With a desperate scream, he raised his weapon, aiming at the civilians still crouched on the floor. If I'm going down, I'm taking them with me. Cass was already in motion. She lunged across the aisle with explosive power that defied logic. Her shoulder slammed into his chest just as his finger twitched. The rifle fired harmlessly into the ceiling, sparks raining like angry stars. They hit the ground together, grappling. He was younger, heavier, but Cass didn't fight with force. She fought like someone who'd already died once and wasn't afraid to do it again. Her elbow drove into his core, her knee shattered his ribs, her fist, fast surgical, struck a nerve cluster behind his ear. 15 seconds. That's all it took. Cass stood, not winded, not shaken. She smoothed her blazer. He lay unconscious at her feet, his weapon kicked safely away. The train screeched to a halt. Doors hissed open. Tactical agents stormed the car in full armor, weapons ready. Clear. Cass called out. 3 targets contained. No civilian injuries. A man approached, older, battle-worn, silver streaks at his temples. He pulled off his helmet. "Commander Drake," he said quietly. "Textbook takedown. Jordan Reyes, Field Operations Director for the Homeland Rapid Threat Division." They followed the profile exactly. Cass replied, rushed, overconfident, no contingencies. Passengers began to stir. A young mother clutched her toddler, sobbing in relief. An elderly businessman shook his head in disbelief. A teenage boy raised his hand, hesitant. "Ma'am, are you really military?" Cass gave him a tired but genuine smile. These days I consult. Then more softly, "But some instincts don't retire." Reyes turned to the passengers. "You've just been saved by one of the most decorated operatives in U.S. history. Commander Cassandra Drake, 12 years recon, 2 Distinguished Crosses for Valor citations, 15 confirmed field operations under hostile threat conditions." The car went silent. The woman in the gray blazer, was that woman? "She's dismantled cells from Mogadishu to Maracaibo," Reyes added. "Prevented dozens of mass-scale tragedies. Always off the record." "Why were you even here?" the old man asked. Was this some kind of setup? Cass and Reyes exchanged a glance. He gave her a nod. 3 weeks ago, Cass began. "We picked up signs of a coordinated plan, multiple cities, transit systems. Today was meant to be the opening shot." She looked at the 3 men on the floor. These were just the first note in a much larger symphony. The plan was designed for chaos, rush hour, maximum confusion. No warning, no demands. A college student peeked from behind a seat. "But how'd you know this train?" Reyes answered. "We didn't." Drake and 11 other former operatives spent 2 weeks riding buses, subways, ferries, random rotations. Today, she drew the right assignment. Cass raised an eyebrow. "I prefer to call it commitment." The young mother stepped forward, tears clinging to her lashes. "I don't even know how to thank you." Cass knelt, brushing a strand of hair from the child's face. "You don't have to. This is what we do, what we swore to do." "But you're retired," the mother said. Cass's eyes softened. "Retirement doesn't mean you stop caring. It just means you choose when and how to serve." Suddenly, Reyes pressed a hand to his earpiece, his expression changing. "Cass, we've got a problem." She straightened. "Another group?" He nodded. "One we didn't see coming. Union Central Rush Hour Express. Left 10 minutes ago. 800 passengers on board." Cass froze for just a second, the color draining from her face. "Response team, ETA?" 15 minutes, Reyes said grimly. "But the train hits its destination in 12. Cass didn't wait. "I need a vehicle. Now." "Cass, this is insane," Reyes said, grabbing her arm. "You're talking about 800 people." Her voice sliced through the chatter like a scalpel. "I didn't spend 12 years in recon just to watch people die, because we were 5 minutes too slow." She turned to the passengers, still watching in silent awe. "Ladies and gentlemen, please exit the train. Follow the agents. Stay safe." They obeyed, quiet, shaken, reverent. The elderly businessman, who'd cowered minutes ago, stepped forward. "You're going after that train, aren't you?" Cass nodded. "Alone if I have to." He took off his watch, sleek, expensive, and pressed it into her hand. "My grandson gave me this. GPS built in case you need to be found." She looked down at it, then met the man's worn, grateful eyes. "Sir, I can't. You already saved my life today," he said. "Consider it an investment in the ones you're about to." Reyes intercepted her at the platform's edge. "Cass, this is reckless. We've got procedures, protocols, checkpoints." She turned to him slowly, eyes that had seen too much war, too much loss. "John," she said, using his first name for the first time in years. "Those people don't have time for protocols." An agent handed her a tactical vest and sidearm. She suited up, checked the slide, chambered around. "Besides," she added with a half smile, equal parts graceful and lethal. Since when did recon ever care about protocols? As she moved for the stairs, the teenage boy called out, "Will you be okay?" Cass paused, turning to the small crowd who'd watched her disarm 3 trained assailants and still keep her poise. "You know what, kid? I've been pinned down in Kandahar, hunted through Caracas, blown out of a safe house in Mosul. Today feels like a good day to be alive." The young mother stepped forward. "How do you do it?" she asked softly. "How do you stay calm when everything's falling apart?" Cass answered honestly, "Because someone has to. Because there are still people worth protecting." She looked at them, every one. "You protected each other back there. Helped kids. Held the line. That's why we do this. That's what makes it worth it." Reyes handed her a comms earpiece. "Stay in contact. Air support's up in 7. "Copy that," Cass replied. She turned back one last time, looking at faces she'd never forget, though she'd likely never see them again. "Take care of each other," she told. "And remember, heroes aren't the ones who aren't afraid. They're the ones who are, and do the right thing anyway." With that, Cass disappeared up the stairs into the morning light, racing against time to stop something unthinkable. The passengers watched her go, some in silence, some in tears. They would never see Commander Cassandra Drake again, but they would never forget her. 3 hours later, the world would learn that a catastrophic plot spanning 9 cities had been stopped, that no lives were lost, that the entire operation had been quietly dismantled. But headlines wouldn't mention the woman in the gray blazer, the one who saved 847 lives before breakfast. Every soul in that train car would remember, though, because sometimes heroes don't wear uniforms. Sometimes they walk beside us unnoticed. Sometimes they look exactly like the person sitting next to you on your morning commute. For more stories where courage defies chaos and quiet heroes change everything, subscribe to The Heart Listens.